Okay, here we go. Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today to discuss how to engage your data providers and get them to contribute to your data quality. My name is Pekka Korpi. I'm the CEO of Qualdatrix, which is a company that develops and sells a product called Data Content Manager. DCM is a ServiceNow certified plugin, which is used to improve data quality in the platform. And I'd say the typical use cases would include aligning with the CSDM, designing and enforcing data models for different purposes and use cases, and so on. So overall, the purpose of the product is to improve the quality of data on the platform and uh, generally improve the return on investment that you've put into the platform. Of course, with Gen AI and everything else coming all over the place, the quality of data is even more perhaps important than before. So in our work, what we see over and over again is similar issues that companies struggle with as far as data quality. And over the past few months, you may have noticed, I see some familiar names here that we've hosted a bunch of webinars addressing some of the most typical ones that we run into. And today, we're going to talk about one of the most difficult ones to address, which is how to engage your data providers. Can I get the next slide, please? So today we're going to begin with, first of all, looking at what is a data provider and who are they? They're people, right? And then we're going to talk about a very effective method of engaging those people. And we're going to go from unrealistic targets to personal targets, which is, in our opinion, a key factor to success. And towards the end, we're going to look at Data Content Manager, and we're going to show you in a very concrete way how you can actually use the product to engage your data providers and get the benefits that way. And I'm here not alone. With me is Mikko Juola. Maybe you can, Mikko, introduce yourself and start the show.
Yes, hello everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Mikko Juola. I'm the product owner for Data Content Manager, and some of you may have seen me doing different demos and talking about our product for several years already. And today, well, this is what we're going to talk about. And I'd say maybe this time the main focus is at the end, like showing how the product actually works and supports this, but giving some context before going to the demo with a couple of slides. So let's start with this. What or who are the data providers? And we kind of go back to this consumer owner provider model we have talked about in our previous sessions as well. If you want to check the recording for more information, you can use the QR code here. But the thing with this model is that you need to differentiate the roles, and it helps to work with data if you can identify all of them. Starting with the consumers who basically define the requirements or use cases for the data, and then the owners who have the overall responsibility, and they kind of make sure that the requirements are being met and people are working on those data records. And then we have the providers who are the people who should actually update the data according to the requirements that have been agreed together with the owner and consumer. And today we are mainly talking about the data providers, but in the demo, I'll also show you the kind of data owner dashboard.
So can you
But
give some practical examples? Maybe it's coming down like who are these people, like as far as titles or how would you identify these people in somebody's organization?
yeah, I have a few examples on the next slide. And before kind of concrete examples, so another thing is that there are other words that kind of describe the same. So
Mm.
some synonyms for data providers can be data stewards, maybe CMDB librarians, or record owners. So basically people who have responsibility over certain records instead of like the whole table or a CI class. And sometimes you also hear people talking about data custodians or CMDB champions. And maybe that role is somewhere between the data provider and owner, kind of helping both sides to do their job. So champions can help the providers to like fill in the requirements, provide some additional instructions and so on, or participate in the requirements discussions with the owners and consumers. But these are the kind of typical, let's say, role names or responsibilities for people. But then who these people really are, here is now like a handful of examples. So starting from the top right corner, we have a server team lead. So that could be a person who is responsible for all the, let's say, Windows virtual servers in the cloud environment, or that team lead together with his team. So they could be responsible for a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand virtual machines, for example. Then you could have service managers or application managers, and they often have less records to maintain, maybe like 5 to 10 or max 20, but they are the people who have the kind of knowledge and expertise regarding their own applications and services. So you need to dig out the information from these people one way or another. And then on the left-hand side, we have other examples like HR coordinator could be responsible for maintaining and making sure that every employee is correctly related to an organizational unit, like a department or business unit or cost center. And then you can also have projects in ServiceNow. So you could have project managers, and they would be responsible for the project data, and service desk agents are responsible for incidents and so on. So of course, in a big platform, there is a lot of examples, but I just wanted to show that it's not only CMDB and not only the kind of configuration managers who should update the data in the CMDB or ServiceNow, but you have a lot of people from different parts of the organization.
Yeah, and I guess what's common for these people, at least many of them, is that it seems to me like they don't necessarily know anything about the CMDB or data models or the CSDM or things like that, and you still have to sort of try to get them to contribute their share. So I guess that's a
Yeah,
big problem.
definitely. Yeah. And maybe in the more kind of technical side of the CMDB, like the maybe server teams are more used to updating data in the CMDB, but then service managers are probably not, and
Right.
not to mention the HR or project managers. So there's some examples. Then you could also consider other systems and integrations as data providers. For example, Discovery is a data provider, but behind those systems, you also have people kind of managing or working with the systems. So it's always good to kind of understand who the people are, so you know who to talk to if you need something from them.
Right. And I guess in some cases, the person might not be using ServiceNow directly. For example, the HR coordinator could be using something totally different, and that other system then feeds into ServiceNow and that sort of thing. But still people
Yeah,
behind it.
yeah, indeed. That's how it often is. But with this, let's jump to the targets. And again, in a previous webinar, we talked about these unrealistic targets and how to make them more realistic. So we were in the beginning saying that it's not really realistic to be fully aligned with CSDM, especially now with the version 5 coming, or be 100% compliant with such a model or a lot of requirements. And also like aiming to have every single record perfectly defined is pretty much unrealistic. So in the previous webinar, we talked about splitting the CMDB, making it more concrete, and also splitting the responsibilities related to the CMDB so that it's not the CMDB owner who is responsible for making sure that everybody aligns with the CSDM, but you can
Right.
split that to different domains. Then also about the 100% compliance. So of course, you can reach 100% for a while, but for a bigger scope, maybe the target should be a bit lower. and then for a very limited scope, it can be 100% if you want to make sure that certain records are always defined based on the kind of minimal requirements. So it can work with the limited scope. And related to the limited scope, this like including every record, maybe not in the beginning. So you can say that let's first do this to our most critical business applications, and when you achieve that, you should also celebrate the success and let people know that okay, now we have accomplished like this target, and then we can set the next target. So having quite like short-term targets with reasonable requirements and scope is probably better than saying that okay, we need to align with CSDM by the end of the year.
So I guess that's getting closer to the people then. So what next?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So what next? If we think about one of those data provider personas, the IT application owner, what would it look like for them? So splitting the scope or splitting the CSDM for them basically means that you need to make sure that every business application has application services underneath. So that sounds more realistic and quite concrete. Of course, you need to know what application service means, but let's assume that that discussion is already behind us. So every application owner need to make sure that their own applications have application services. That's it. Then for the 100% compliance, yes, maybe that's the target, but only for the crawl phase requirements of the CSDM, like not the whole big picture, but a smaller part of it. And then again, when we reach that, then we can increase the requirements. And finally, celebrating success. So if we do it first for the critical, like I said before, then we are happy and we already achieved something and we can continue with the rest. So this, in my opinion, has a big impact on motivation when people can see that they can impact their own scores and kind of see the better results after updating a handful of records instead of looking at the, let's say, the CMDB health scores for the whole CMDB or one class, and it's kind of hard to move the needle.
Right. So if the big picture is that you have 20 million records in your CMDB, nothing that any single person does basically affects that, right? But if
Yeah,
you split it up enough so that, for example, in this example, the IT application owner only needs to worry about their own stuff, which could be, I don't know, maybe 10, 20, 50 applications, that's much more manageable. And if you make that improvement, then that's very personal to you
mm,
and it's manageable.
yeah,
And you can actually see the difference in your own KPIs.
and yeah, and for the people who have the overall responsibility, they can also focus on communicating with the owners that still have some gaps,
Right.
and not to kind of harass everybody with the same stuff all the time.
Seems to make sense.
Yeah, so let's see how this would work in practice. So I'm gonna do a live demo and presenting our workspace, and the workspace is like a data quality workspace that is targeted for these data providers. And in this demo, I actually have two different personas. So first we show the kind of dashboard for the domain owner. And in this case, the domain owner would be the business application domain owner, like a portfolio manager or portfolio owner. And she would have the overall responsibility for the business application data. And in practice, it means that she would follow up the reports and trends and maybe communicate with different application owners, but not update the records or fix the issues herself. And that's why we have the IT application owner or the data provider on the right-hand side, and she would be using the data quality workspace to remediate the issues that the audit has found.
Right.
So let's jump into it. And well, let's again like start here from the DCM homepage. So like a super quick recap on how DCM works is that you first create a blueprint that defines the requirements. Then you run an audit to see how compliant you are against the blueprint, and then you start fixing the issues with different mechanisms. And today we're focusing on the workspace. So the blueprint we have for today's demo is quite simple. It starts from the business application class, and we require that every application has at least one application service, and then we check that the IT application owner is in place and the managed by user is in place. And then in the related info, we also see that there is this data provider configuration, which says that the IT application owner and the managed by group members are responsible for maintaining this data. So basically, they should maintain this one CI relationship, and then kind of inside the business application box, we also have a couple of attributes we want to follow. So name, description, and a couple of choice lists. So these are part of the audit. And when the audit runs, it will kind of check all these things. And then we get the kind of reports. So this is now a dashboard for the domain owner. And I have pre-filtered it with the business application domain. So I'm now acting as a domain owner, the portfolio owner. And here I can see that the current compliance for business application data is 87%. And then next to it is a trend showing how the compliance has changed over time. If I scroll down, I see kind of the scope of my audit. So we're currently auditing 154 business applications, and 33 of them still have some critical issues, and a bit over half are fully compliant with the model. Then if I scroll down a bit more, I see some problem areas. So in this case, there are records where the application type is missing, or the CI relationship to the application service is missing. And then if I scroll down a bit more, I see the data provider reports. And this is now the kind of important part for today's session. So on top of the list is my name, but then we have Mary. So Mary is also responsible for a handful of business applications, and they still require fixing. So now, as an overall responsible person, I could go back to the top and check the results for Mary. So I can see that in her case, the compliance is 85%. There's some changes in the trend. She has like 14 records over the last 7 days. And again, a bit over half of them are fully compliant, and then similar issues, but now number one is the missing CI relationships. So then the next step is like how Mary would use this information or these reports to actually fix the issues. So now I'm gonna switch hats or my role. So jumping to the Data Quality Workspace. So you will find it from the Workspace menu if you have the proper access rights, or also from the navigation. And now I'm logged in as Mary Huang. So this will show only results related to records that I'm responsible for. So in this case, the overall compliance is 83%. I have responsibilities in 3 different domains: the server, application service, and business applications. If I wanna just focus on the business applications, I can use these filters on top. So 85 for business apps, and the trend looks similar to what you saw in the domain owner dashboard.
So
If
to
I
be clear,
scroll
everything that
down,
you're looking at here is based on the blueprints now. So you had one blueprint which looked at the business applications, but you probably have other ones as well, feeding into Mary's personal dashboard, right?
there can be, yes. And
Yeah,
as you saw, there was like server and application
yeah,
service
exactly.
blueprint as well. And then if I scroll down here, I have a list of records that still requires work. And this is now the key. So if I click this Engage Engine, it comes to this remediation page, and here I have two issues that are sort of assigned to Mary, and one of them is related to a missing application type. So I can click remediate and then select the type. Let's say this is homegrown, click save, and that will update the record in the background. So maybe we'll open the record into new window. So we see that the application type is updated, but this doesn't have any relationships. So like here, the second issue is that mandatory relationship is missing. So if I click remediate, and then it asks me to select the application service. So I think I have one with the same name. Okay, what is it? Engage. Yeah, so Engage Engine Prod and test. And then I click save. Now it says the remediation applied. If I go back to the record and reload the form, we should see two CI relationships here. So it will create the relationships according to the blueprint, but the person kind of filling in the information doesn't need to know about the blueprints or data models or CMDB for that matter.
But still, the
And
blueprint in the background makes sure that the person who is now seeing only things relevant to her, fixed issues only relevant to her, created a CI relationship and everything else, and she just basically pointed and clicked and didn't need to know anything about the back end or which direction these things go and that sort of thing.
exactly. And because I always talk about taking baby steps and starting small and so on. So what would you then do when it's already 100% or when you want to add something? So let me show you. Okay, let's again changing the role. Now I'm the kind of domain owner working with the blueprint. So let's come back to the blueprint designer and change this a little bit. So I'll quickly create a new version. And what should we add here? What do we need to know about the business applications?
I don't know, department maybe?
Yeah, let's put department. So every application should belong to a department. So we say it's mandatory, and that's it. Okay, and then we publish this blueprint. We review the data provider config, but it's still the same. So the same people are still responsible for the blueprint, but now they have one extra requirement. So let's publish that. And then if I go to audit, so this is the scheduled audit that kind of created the previous results. So now I can click execute now, and then it will start processing the new blueprint with the records that we have. Okay, let's move that a bit. So we can see that progress here. It will take a while, so maybe 3 minutes. So let's let it run in the background. But while waiting for that, I wanted to show you like some other blueprints. So this is one example related to user groups or group validation. And the logic is the same. So we have a blueprint. It starts from the group table. We want to check that every group has a manager. It has some group members. Here it even says that there has to be at least 2 members. Otherwise, it's not a group. And then it will check some roles as well. Maybe the group members need a particular role to do their job. So checking for that. And then when we want to publish this, again, we define the providers. Now it would be the group manager who should kind of take care of the members and so on. So if I publish this, run an audit, and then you, Pekka, would be a manager of some of the groups, then those data quality gaps would show in your workspace and you could start fixing them.
Right. And I wouldn't have to worry about the stuff that Mary is worried about because that wouldn't show up to me. I would only get this
Yeah,
information which is relevant to me, and I would only fix those gaps to improve my KPIs and my
indeed,
data.
indeed. And just to give yet another example, I have this location blueprint here. So everything doesn't have to be related to CMDB. This blueprint is starting from the location type called site, and then every site should belong to a city, and cities belong to countries or provinces, and then countries belong to regions. And in this case, again, we have a provider defined. This time, maybe it's the contact. And actually, nowadays, the locations also have this managed by group reference. So you could assign the groups to take care of country-based locations or however you want to distribute the responsibilities. But again, if I publish this, run the audit, then the contacts and managed by group members would get the results to their workspace and they could start fixing the issues.
Right. So basically, you're doing the same thing regardless of the use case. Basically, you're drawing a blueprint, running an audit, and then using the workspace to distribute the responsibility of actually updating something to the people who are responsible for those things.
That's exactly how it works. And last thing I want to show you is the kind of new results that should come from this audit. So we can wait for that a bit, and then we will look at it from the domain owner perspective. We should see like new problem areas because we have this new requirement, and I'm quite sure that the department is missing from all the applications. And then we can see it from Mary's perspective, like how she can then fulfill this new requirement.
Right. And I guess it's worth saying that in real life, of course, these audits would be scheduled to run in the background sometime in the night or something, so you wouldn't have to wait.
Yeah, exactly. And it may seem slow for like 100 or 200 record, but it actually gets faster when you have more records. And yeah, it should be scheduled and running in the background. But it's almost done now.
By the way, if anybody has any questions, there's the Q&A panel.
Yeah.
I think you have a icon over there in the top. So if you have any questions, we can address those as we go and towards the end.
Yeah, that's something we maybe forgot to mention in the beginning, but now we should have some new results. I don't remember if this percent was the same the last time, but if we scroll down, we should see that we have a new problem area. So we have applications where the department is missing. If we apply the provider filter here and check what we have for Mary. So yeah, all the 14 applications are missing the department. And then if we go to the workspace and also reload this, then the compliance has dropped a little bit. I think it was higher. Let's change to business applications only. Yeah, a little bit lower. And then if well, first of all, I see more records here, so more records with issues. And maybe I'll take this, well, let's take the same one. So now I have one new issue for this, and this is the department. So then I just click remediate, and let's see what would be a good department.
Yeah, but in essence, you
corporate.
added a requirement for the data into the blueprint. You run another audit, and all of a sudden, people have more things to fix because of that one change. And everybody gets their own issues to fix, and they don't have to worry about other people's issues. So that seems to make sense. There's a question, Mikko.
Mhm.
How does remediation work if blueprint audit field has a dependence to another field field value, for example, lifecycle stage and stage status, which must be synced?
Well, that particular field is a little bit problematic. So you cannot really fix the lifecycle stage status with the workspace because of this dependency, but that's luckily one of the very rare exceptions. So that is one topic we have been working with in the near or well lately, but it doesn't work yet. So for that we need to figure out something new. but for most other cases, it's working fine.
A very good question then.
Yeah.
I realize also that we're at the end of our time today. So is there anything that you want to wrap up with?
Well, some takeaways. So I hope this made clear that it's better to only kind of measure and require things from the people that they can kind of have impact on. So that helps if you're being measured by the things that you can change. Otherwise, it can be a bit dismotivating. And this kind of success snowball basically means that when you do it in small steps, you kind of reach the targets. You have like happy feelings and a feeling of uh, getting things done and achieving the goals. So that helps in the long run to reach higher goals. And then, well, there are some tools that can be used to engage people, and DCM and Workspace is definitely one of them.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mikko, and thank you everybody who participated. We are at the end of the time, so if you would like to learn more about DCM or how it works and how you can engage your data providers, there's a QR code here that takes you to a calendar where you can book time with us, or just go to our website, look around. There's a lot of content, a lot of examples, and some videos, and of course a way to reach out to us. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day and a great evening.
Thank you. Bye bye.